Naresh, shall we wait for 10 more minutes?
Sure, sir. 26 participants came, sir, till now. So we'll wait for another 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Maulali garu. Good morning.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations అండి, బాగా పార్టిసిపేట్ చేసినట్టున్నారు ఎగ్జిబిషన్.
అదే వాళ్ళే మాకు ఇది చేశారు సార్, మాకు
అదే
వాళ్ళే ఆహ్వానించారు సార్. మేము అక్కడికి పోయి చేసాం సార్.
ఓకే అండి.
ఓకే సార్.
అదే. Sir, good morning, sir. Shall we start, sir? ADR, sir.
Okay, good morning.
Sir. A very good morning to our Associate Director of Research, Dr. P. Rashekar, sir. A very good morning to all the scientists from different parts of the country and all the agri entrepreneurs who are interestingly participating in this national webinar. So this is the third in the series of the national webinars that we're conducting as a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. So this is actually a very important topic that we are letting you know to understand the things. Flexibility for the startups. What is the importance, significance of the flexibility? So it gives me an immense pleasure to welcome all the participants to this webinar. And I request our Associate Director of Research to give his introductory remarks. And before that, I would like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. A. Vishnuvardhan Reddy Garu, and Director of Research, Dr. L. Prashant Madam, for permitting us to conduct this program. And we are also very much thankful to RKV Raftar for sponsoring this national webinar. Thank you, sir. It's over to you, sir.
Okay, good morning, everybody. So, as a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, we are organizing a series of webinars, and as reported by our Balu Sen Reddy. So, this is the third in the series. So, today's topic is flexibility for profitability to any agri startup. So, this incubator, particularly operating in our Acharya N.G. Ranga Agricultural University. So, this is supported amply by our Honorable Vice Chancellor Vishnuvardhan Reddy Garu, and also our beloved Director of Research, Madam Dr. L. Prasanthi Garu. So, with their support, we are successfully organizing a series of events as well as webinars. So, particularly this webinar, the flexibility for profitability to any agri startup, is very useful for the new budding entrepreneurs. So everybody will be looking up to have a startup. So to have that startup, one should have that professionalism, creativity, then risk-taking ability, then new ideas. So many. So entrepreneur, so many will be aspiring, but they should have all these qualities, what we mentioned. So if we have all these qualities, then they can venture into having a startup. So in this world, if you see, nothing is static and everything will be changing. Constantly they will be changing. The human wants are changing, needs are changing. So when you start up a thing with the primary objective, maybe we start up with something, but finally the consumer preference or something may change, and we have to change ourselves also to suit their needs. So like that, we should always be flexible, not rigid. So only flexible ideas, flexible innovations, everything. We should have that in our path to overcome these hiccups. So when it comes to business also, so your industry, whether you are growing or something, some sudden changes coming in our way. So everything we should anticipate and we should be flexible. So the successful entrepreneur means he should be able to study the environment, the world as such, and the operators are constantly changing, and also they must focus on the end game. So what ultimately that reaches the clientele, we should see their preferences, interest, and change our strategies to suit their needs. So by taking all this into consideration, my basic advice to all the new entrepreneurs is having a lot of flexible state of mind. So unless you have a flexible in all aspects according to the needs, according to the situations, you cannot be a successful entrepreneur. So that's why I feel this particular national webinar today is apt for this today's season, today's time. So those who want to become entrepreneurs, for them it is very useful. You can learn how we can be flexible in what aspects, at what situations. Everything will be dealt in detail by our guest speaker, which will commence soon. And in the meantime, I once again wholeheartedly welcome all of you to this particularly interesting topic for today's national webinar. You participate actively, discuss, and then clear all your doubt and be successful entrepreneurs in the coming years. So thank you for giving this opportunity. I thank our principal investigator, Balu Sen Reddy Garu, for giving this opportunity and making a part of this national webinar. I request him to conduct the further proceedings. Thank you, one and all.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your wonderful introductory remarks and the significance of the flexibility that is required for any agri startup for becoming a sustainable enterprise in the future. So thank you very much for your remarks, sir. So before going to the actual topic today, because this is the last series of our webinar, I would like to highlight some of the achievements that our agribusiness incubator has made before the speakers join us. So this is one of the 29 incubation centers, agribusiness incubators that have been established across the country to promote agribusiness ecosystem in the country. So agribusiness incubator that is established under Acharya Engineering Agriculture University is established, is located at Regional Agriculture Research Station, Tirupati. So I'm just highlighting the achievements of this incubator for the budding entrepreneurs who wants to nurture and maybe getting some financial assistance. So what are the activities that any incubator? So this is a common pattern for any incubator pertaining to agribusiness established across the country. So even the people from the other states also, they can maybe get enlightened on the program. So you can apply for the financial support as well as the technical support as well as the nurturing from your incubator, which is located in your state. So coming to this one, yeah, 1 minute. I hope the screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
So this is our journey. This is actually 3 years of our journey in promoting the agri-business ecosystem in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Of course, we are even providing the services to the neighboring states also, like Tamil Nadu, Telangana, even from Maharashtra also we're providing. So this program of incubation, especially for agriculture and agri-related enterprises, was initiated under by the Ministry of Agriculture under the program RQA Raftar. So this program was launched in somewhere in 2017-18, especially to promote. Of course, we all know that there is a startup system related to the technology or techs, IT and IoT related startups are there across the country. But there is no supporting system or the platform for promoting the agri startups in the country. So the government has taken an initiation and for strengthening and promoting the agri entrepreneurship and the startup culture in the country. They have established 29 agri business incubators. So here we will be identifying what we say and recognizing the ground level or grassroots level innovations, and then we will be nurturing them for establishing a startup, and then we will also be supporting them financially. So these are the major objectives. So there are 29 agri-business incubation centers under ANGRAU Raftar, and this is the one that is serving in Andhra Pradesh. So the vision is for enhancing the agri-business ecosystem within the particular state. That is the vision of this ANGRAU Poshan Incubator. And then we'll be nurturing the startups and then supporting them financially to establish. And then even we'll be linking them to market access also, and then getting the finance funding support from other agencies also for sustaining the agri-business. So the focused areas are, this is agri related, so it can be an agriculture from horticulture or sericulture, or it can be animal husbandry or dairy sector, or it can be aquaculture related to maybe the fish culture or prawns, whatever maybe. It should be anything related to agriculture and allied sectors. So these are the areas from where you can apply and then get the support from this project. So it can be biotechnology related, or maybe production of the seed, micro irrigation, then natural resource management, food processing, then agriculture mechanization, IT and IoT related aspects, then chain management. Apart from these, there are different types of innovations. That is, one is product innovation. In the sense, some people are coming with some products. This is my innovative product. So that is acceptable, provided it is not a replication of some other existing product. The other one is process incubation. Process incubation, in the sense, there are some innovative thoughts in providing maybe in the existing process also. For example, if you take agro advisory services, if you are coming with some innovative thoughts, some innovation in this process of providing the agriculture advisory services to the farmers, so that is also taken as the what we say, the innovative thought. Or maybe in providing the supply chain management, and also if there is some innovation, certainly in this process, from producer to the customer, if you are going to have some innovative concept, certainly that is also accepted. So it's not that you come with the only product innovation, but the process innovation is also equally accepted. Okay, so related to the agri clinics and advisory services, so conversion of the waste to wealth, and secondary agriculture, even farm detailing, harvesting, post harvesting. So these are some of the focused areas. Business incubation somewhere in 2019. That is with the first batch, first cohort, and we named it as YOCH and Agri Invo. YOCH, there are two flagship programs. One is people who are coming just would like to enter this agri ecosystem, and they want to do some business. So they are coming with some idea stage, with some ideas, some innovative ideas. So for converting or translating their ideas to what we say, some prototype or model, we will be supporting them up to 5 lakhs. So that is called as AOP stage, that is Agripreneurship Orientation Program, or we can call it as a pre-seed stage. So for easy communication, we named it as YOCH, and after, of course, from 2020 onwards, we were calling this category as Sankalp. So here people are coming with some ideas only, but their ideas will be converted to the prototype, and the funding will be given up to 5 lakhs. The other one is people who are already there in the agri business ecosystem, and they have some startup registrations, and then they are doing business for upscaling their business or to enhance their capabilities and capacities. We will be providing, of course, nurturing them, and then we will be providing the funding up to 25 lakhs. So for easy understanding, we named it as Samruddhi. Right now, we are calling it as Samruddhi program. So these are the two flagship programs. the only criteria that is required is the innovation should be, it's not a duplication or a replication of some other existing ideas. Be innovative, then it should provide some solutions to the farming community. That's all. There is no requirement of any age or maybe the education qualifications are also not required. The only thing that is required is how best is your innovation. The other thing that we look is how feasible is for your innovation for doing the business. That is also important. So without any customers, there is no need of any innovation. The purpose of innovation will not be served. So the requirement is you should have some innovative idea, innovative thoughts that also should have some customer base for your sustainable business. Without any customers, you cannot do the business. So in both the programs, we'll be giving 2 months training program for them with different experts, starting from the registration of a company, then to finally doing the business marketing, complete all the aspects related to the agri business. So these are the 2 flagship programs, and right now the 4th cohort is going on. We have successfully completed 3 cohorts. So for we say we will be providing some orientation programs to different college students also, especially to inspire them or to ignite the minds. It's not that after graduation you just look for some government job or private job. There are some opportunities that provide you to become self-sustained or to become a successful agri entrepreneur. So like that, we will be visiting so many colleges and then providing some orientation program regarding this program. Of course, because of COVID, for the past 2 years, we were conducting virtual programs only. Okay, so likewise, we'll be promoting the activities in the different print and electronic media as well as social media. And then we will be inviting the applications. For example, if we take one cohort, for each batch, we will be calling some applications. We'll be getting some 100 or more than 100 applications for each category. For 5 lakhs category, if we take, then we will be scrutinizing them, screening them. There is a committee at our Tirupati level, at our university level. We have one RIC committee where it will be screening out and then shortlisting the successful or will be the viable startups, and then maybe we'll be selecting 30 people or 30 applicants out of the 100 or more than 100 for each category. So if we take this pre-seed stage funding process, we will be giving advertisement as you see here. Then finally we'll be selecting 30 after screening, and then we'll be providing the 2 months training program for them pertaining to the agri startup ecosystem. Of course, we'll be providing the free lodging and boarding facilities for the people coming over here to attend the training program, and also we'll be providing 10,000 rupees stipend per month for these people also. So for the first batch, we have provided all these things. Of course, for the second and third cohort, because of COVID, we have conducted online classes only, virtual classes only. So after this, again, these 30 people who are undergone this 2 months program, they will be refining their ideas because after exposing to different experts, they will be refining their ideas and they'll be presenting again before the RIC committee. And then this, after screening, they will be finally presenting before the RC. That is National Institute of Agriculture Extension Management, Hyderabad, manage. That is the final committee where which will be selecting the startups for funding, and then they will be recommending to the Ministry of Agriculture. So this is the final stage. So there are 3 stages of presentation of pitching your ideas before the committees. This is the final committee at Manage, Hyderabad. So after that, the ministry will be releasing the funding to us, to our university, from where we will be disbursing the amount. Of course, the amount that is up to 5 lakhs. Here, 60% of the released budget will be given as a first installment, and after seeing the performance and the efficiency of the startup, the remaining 40% will be released later. So this is the, then again, we will not be letting them over there only. We will be supporting them by providing interactions with different platforms, providing market access, then connecting with the investors. So the journey will be continuing, and we'll be providing the services through our incubator. So this is related to the pre-seed stage idea. And coming to the seed stage, or maybe the Sankalp category, here also the same thing will be followed. We'll be giving advertisement, and then we will be filing applications. And from here, we'll be selecting 30 out of the applicants. Here also the people will be undergoing the incubation program for 2 months. Of course, here we will not be providing that 10,000 rupees stipend per month for these people, because they are already doing the business. So apart from that, we'll be providing the free boarding and lodging for these people also. And then they will be presenting before the 3 committees. And finally, the committee at Manage Hyderabad, they will be recommending to the Ministry of Agriculture. So after getting the fund, this funding will be up to 25 lakhs or maybe lesser than that, depending upon the necessity of the applicant, that funding will be released. The fund that is released from the ministry will be given in 3 phases. Initially, 40% will be released, and after I mean, what we say, seeing the performance and getting their reports regularly, the next 40% will be released, and then finally 20%. So the funding will be released in 3 phases: 40, 40, and 20. Okay, so this is related to the seed stage program. So these are the 2 flagship programs. So if we see the summary in a nutshell, the total number of applications that we received in each cohort, and finally that are funding. So in the first cohort, actually 7 from pre-seed stage and 2 from seed stage were funded with a volume of 37.5 lakhs. In the second cohort, 12 from pre-seed stage and 4 from seed stage category are funded, and around 1.33 crores fund is released from the Ministry of Agriculture. And similarly, in the third cohort also, we are expecting somewhere around 15 to 16 will be selected from both the categories, and maybe the funding will be around 1.2 or 1.3 crores. So right now, the process is we're going to launch. I mean, of course, 4th cohort we have launched already, and then we're ready to take up the 2 months incubation program for the 4th cohort. So this is the status of the Agri Business Incubator, the activities and the achievements. Of course, these are some of the what we say glimpses of the programs that we are taking. This is the 2 months incubation program. Earlier we were conducting physically before COVID, and after COVID we were doing this one in virtually with different experts. Then this is the procedure of selection. The committee members will be there, and then the people, the aspiring entrepreneurs will be presenting individually before the committee, and then convincing the jury members for getting the financial support. So we'll also be conducting the pre-funding visits also, especially in the case of the Samruddhi category, because they claim that they are already doing some business and they have some registration. The one that I want to emphasize here is the type of registration, company registrations that is acceptable under this program. There are 3 types of registrations. One is what we say the partnership program. The company registration can be in a partnership mode, or it can be limited liability mode, or it can be a private limited company. So these 3 registrations are only accepted. The proprietorship type of registration is not accepted. Similarly, the farmer producer organizations, things like that, they are also not accepted in this category. So we'll be doing the pre-funding visits to verify whether these people are doing the business, and then these are the glimpses of release of the fund to the selected startups. And of course, we'll be doing the post-funding inspection of both the categories, Sankalp as well as Samruddhi, to just understand the status of the startups. Okay. Then we'll be conducting the review meetings also with the startups to understand their status. Of course, we are doing the national webinars to expose them to different avenues, especially related to the Agri startup system. And then presentation exposure, I mean, our footsteps in media, print as well as electronic media. And then these are some of the glimpses of the incubators, their what we say, their showcase in the print media. And then, of course, these are some of the dignitary visits. Our Honorable Vice Chancellor, then the Commissioner of Agriculture. There is a committee, National Committee, former Vice Chancellor of SK University, Kashmir, and then former Dean of Hisar. This is the NABARD team, state level NABARD team that has visited. So these are some of the things. This is about the support that is given by ANGRAU Poshan Incubator for the startups. So if there are any queries, you can just, it is open for any queries. So this is an ongoing program. The people who come for under pre-seed stage, they are also qualified to go to the further stage. That is, who are coming for Sankalp category. After completion of that phase, complete final funding process, they are eligible to apply for this 25 lakhs category also, so that they can enhance that they can upscale their business. So the different avenues that we actually supported are mostly from agriculture mechanization, and we are very fortunate that we're getting very grassroots innovations. So the advantage of getting these innovations is they are actually provide answers to the local problems that are faced by the farming community. Because the technology that is developed somewhere, what we call as a top to bottom approach, may not be suitable for all the people. But as we say, even in the delivery of extension services, bottom to top approach is acceptable and is sustainable. Likewise, there are so many innovations that are coming from the grassroots level, because these people are seeing the problems that the farmers are facing and they are coming with some solutions. So really this will be providing answers or providing solutions to the farming community. So this is all about the agribusiness incubator that is established under Acharya Engineering and Agriculture University. So we're very much thankful for the Ministry of Agriculture under RK Aftar for supporting the agribusiness ecosystem in the country through this program. Thank you very much. Of course, right now I would like to inform the members who are participating. There is a rolling out application mechanism in our website, where people who are missing within the prescribed period, because we will be giving a prescribed period for getting in the applications for each cohort. So right now, fourth cohort is running on. So for fifth cohort, if people may be missing the time slot that we will be giving, so we have an option of rolling out applications that is provided in our website, where people can register themselves with the innovations that they are having, with the innovative ideas they are having. Just put there is a Google form where people can just write down their innovations, and we will be considering their applications for the next cohort. Even if you miss out the advertisements that we give for the next cohort, you can just log into our website and then give your details of the innovations. Then we will be recording them, and then we will be calling you for the next cohort. So this is for the information, and our website is already there in the in the webinar form that we have supplied to you also. It is www.angrauTPT.org. So that will be given in the chat box also. So thank you very much. Now I request our business incubator, if Jaishankar sir has joined the program, I would request our business manager, Dr. Naresh Reddy, to give some introduce the speaker to the members. Thank you very much.
Sir, sir has not yet joined, sir. Shall we wait for 5 minutes?
Okay, Naresh. Request all the members to kindly wait for 5 more minutes so that the speaker will join.
Sir is here.
Sir, good morning, sir. Vijay Shankar, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. 1 minute.
Sir, good morning, sir. Vijay Shankar, sir. This is Bala.
Good morning, Dr. Reddy.
Sir, good morning.
Yeah, can you just give me a minute, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'll just.
Sir, in the meantime, Dr. Naresh will introduce you to the members, sir.
That is only at 11:15, kadandi.
లేదు sir.
Lakshmi నాకు ఒక మెసేజ్ పంపించింది 11:15 or 11:20 or something like that.
Sir, actually in the schedule it was that, sir. Like we have some interaction session that is over a little bit early, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll just take my earphones. Just a minute. Huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
sir.
So actually, I thought I'll log in at 11 o'clock and test out and see everything is okay, and then be ready for the 11:15.
Oh, sorry for the inconvenience.
No,
sir.
not at all. వినపడుతుందండి?
Yeah, వస్తుంది,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Sir. Okay, sir. Thank you. So, good morning, all. Myself, Dr. Naresh Reddy, business manager at ANGRAU Poshan Incubator, Tirupati. So, I am very happy to introduce our today's eminent speaker, Sri V. Vijay Shankar, sir. So, sir is a fellow member of Indian Institute of Chartered Accountants, and sir has done a Bachelor of Science from Bangalore University, and sir is a consultant at Vice Owl Consultant Services since 2019. So, sir is working for acceleration of startup ecosystem of the country by providing training, mentoring, and strategic consultancy for entrepreneurs. Sir has a vast experience, nearly 40 plus years of experience in various corporate organizations. Sir has retired from corporate life at end of 2019, and having worked in leading Indian corporate houses for around 40 years in top level positions in last 30 years. So, sir is also a managing director for 8 years in NACL Industries, Hyderabad, one of the India's leading crop protection players. Sir is also chief finance officer and strategy head for 10 years in Jari Industries Limited, and Chambal Fertilizers and Chemicals as a part of the KK Birla Group, Delhi and Goa. Sir is also an executive assistant to group chairman and head of project for 9 years in Nagarjuna Fertilizers and Chemicals Limited and its sister companies also. So Sir is also head of the finance of Mahindra Nissan, subsidiary of Mahindra and Mahindra Hyderabad. And Sir is also internal audit in Mahindra and Mahindra, a leading automobile company for 10 years. Sir is also worked in a pharmaceutical company for 3 years. So Sir has major areas of expertise, which includes general management in strategy, HR, supply chain management, and marketing. And Sir has also major expertise in turnaround of companies from loss to profit making. And Sir also having this expertise in finance and fundraising and management and cost efficiency. So now I request Sir Vijay Shankar sir to please throw a light of knowledge to our enthusiastic audience as well as young aspiring entrepreneurs. So now the floor is yours, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr.
Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Only thing is, I have to see how do I share it. Can I just a minute? I'm supposed to enter my name, and I have not yet clicked join, but still it has come. 1 minute. Because sharing, ippude vastundi. Yeah. Is it okay now? Oh shit. Echo.
Echo. Maybe two systems have login.
Okay, Hello.
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Again,
Echo sir.
Echo.
Sir, मेरी 2 logins చూపిస్తుంది sir.
Okay, I'll leave the meeting.
Yeah, sir. Yes, sir. Now it should be fine.
Hello.
Yes, sir. It's fine.
I think now there is no major issue. Just a minute. I'll just share my screen. Is it visible, Andy?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Visible? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Visible, sir. Fine.
So, yeah. So, good morning, all, and wish you. I mean, this is a good start for the session, and you already would have had the necessary introductions, etc., taking place for the objective of the session. Hello, can you hear me?
Hello,
yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay. 1 minute. Yeah. So the discussion that we're going to have today is on flexibility of profitability for startups. I think Madam Lakshmi has been telling me about this last time also. So I said, startup and profitability in days, that's too early for you to start looking at profitability. Startup normally involves a lot of investments, and you will have to get your feet wet, as the saying goes, and before profitability starts coming in. Profitability doesn't happen right on day one invariably, but she said, Kalande, it's always better for us to know about the entire what are the flexible options that are there for any business, particularly startups, on how to become profitable. But I'm happy on one thing, that today we are talking about profitability. Today, if you see most of the companies who have gone into IPOs and whatnot, they are still not profitable, but they are able to get phenomenal valuations, and many of them are supposedly in the unicorn club. And the pride of India has been almost 66 or 68 unicorns were generated just last year alone during the pandemic times. I mean, it augurs very well for startups. But as a hardcore business professional, valuation is a very good thing, but it cannot be the end thing. Ultimately, the business has to be profitable for it to be of good value in the long run. So I'm very happy on one count that focus is also on profitability. So that's a very good thing, though many people would say it is traditional approach. I strongly believe that any business, whatever be the size, whether it is a pawn shop or Reliance, the income should exceed the expenditure of that particular entity. So only then you are able to sustain yourself, invest yourself, and grow yourself in that particular business. So many of the startups today, they focus, I met a lot of people in many of the occasions. They said valuation challenge, valuation is more than enough. You get phenomenal value. I think I just do a particular product today, and tomorrow, day after tomorrow, somebody is going to come and buy me off. Valuation is the name of the game. So yes, it's always a very short-term objective. And initially for India, yes, it makes a lot of sense for you to have value, because that gives a lot of encouragement to startups to come out with new ideas, come out with ideas which can be commercially implemented. And that is a phenomenal catalyst, I would use the word, and a very strong carrot for many of the people to start getting into startups, so that the valuation is something which they will get, and that too, many of the people look for buyers from the big companies, etc. Within a couple of years, they get some decent money, and then they use it either to grow. But some companies, some startups continue to invest in their idea. They will continue diluting their stake by getting investors on board at a higher and higher valuation, like what Flipkart did before they decided to sell it off. So until such a high value, because they had already reduced their stake to less than 20% when they diluted to Walmart. So like that, you have the many of the objectives. And as you know, Flipkart has never made profits at all. Even today, after the takeover also, it does not make profits. So, but then the opportunity of business is so much, and the ideas and thoughts are still so very attractive, because the markets of India is so very large. So therefore, you have a lot of interest in startups, and hopefully getting the valuation that they are continuing. But profitability is the core. And let me just start off by saying, I think I've been introduced. So let me start off by saying that, first of all, this is one word quote which I use. Sun Tzu is one of those Chinese philosophers. And basically, he was the time of the 17th, 18th century. And he is known to be a philosophical approach. And many of his quotes are based on the military conquests which have come. And if you see, most of business, the hierarchy and structures of business have largely been adapted and followed from the military structures which have been there nearly in every country, to name them. So the hierarchical structure, the decision-making pyramid, etc., has largely been adapted and adopted from the military. So I think this is a very apt statement to say that victory comes from finding opportunities in problems. It's a very cliched statement. I'm sure many speakers would be saying this, but it is a truth. It is a truth that you have to look for opportunities. And I believe very strongly that if you analyze a problem very much in detail, you will find that there is a solution hidden there. It's up to you to decide how you find the problem, find the solution, and accordingly implement it. So the solution, normally the problem itself will give you the solution. So that's the opportunity which is there. So that calls for an attitude of looking for solutions rather than identifying problems alone. So this is something which is one of my favorite statements I normally start, and it's very appropriate for startups, that you should not get disheartened by the setbacks, etc. We need to continue to move ahead with your idea, as long as there's a commitment, there's a focus, and there's a passion for that. So let's see, what is the meaning of profit? Before that, let me ask you, I would like a participation, please. So definitely I would like to ask people I will keep on asking people to give some response and feedback. Can anyone of you tell me what's the meaning of profitability, please? What is profit? What do you understand by profit? I'm listening. Hello. Can anybody say what is profit? What is meaning of profit? Come on, I see for about 40 people are there. So some of you must be aware of.
Yeah, sir, myself,
tell me.
Rajendra, sir, from Sairad Organics.
Yeah.
So, yeah, profit is nothing but after sales and whatever the amount is left with us. So that is a net profit.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
మన పెట్టిన పెట్టుబడికి హలో
చెప్పండి.
మనం పెట్టిన పెట్టుబడికి పర్సంటేజ్ మనం పెట్టిన పెట్టుబడి కాక వచ్చే లాభాన్ని ప్రాఫిట్ అంటాడు సార్.
అదే లాభమే కదా?
లాభమే సార్.
లాభమే కదా? ₹1 ఉంటే కూడా పర్వాలేదా?
లేదు సార్, మనకు అంటే మనకి మేనేజ్ అవ్వడానికి.
రైట్. వెరీ గుడ్. ఇంకా వేరే ఎవరైనా ఉన్నారా చెప్పడానికి? Yeah, let me tell you some of the business leaders. Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning అండి.
ప్రాఫిట్ అంటే ఇప్పుడు మనం తయారు చేస్తున్న ఒక ఎక్విప్మెంట్ కానీ ఏదైనా కానీ సర్వీస్ కానీ దానికి మనము ఖర్చు పెట్టే కొన్ని వేరే రకాలైన కొన్ని ఉంటాయి సార్. ఇప్పుడు డిప్రిసియేషన్ కానీ తర్వాత ఇట్లా మెటీరియల్స్ కానీ అన్ని ఇంక్లూడ్ చేసుకొని కాస్ట్ చేసుకొని దాని మీద మనము ఇంట్రెస్ట్ కానీ ఇవన్నీ క్యాల్కులేట్ చేసి టోటల్లీ ఒక అమౌంట్ అయినాక ఒక పర్సెంటేజ్ ని మనం డిసైడ్ చేసుకొని అమ్మడానికి ప్రాఫిట్ అంటాం సార్.
మంచిదండి. సో మీరు ముగ్గురు ఇప్పుడు నాతో మాట్లాడారు కదా, మీరు అందరూ కామర్స్ స్టూడెంట్సా? కామర్స్ చేసేవారా లేకపోతే బిజినెస్ లో ఉన్నారా? మీరు
బిజినెస్ లో ఉన్నాం సార్.
మీరు కామర్స్ కూడా చదువు ఉంటారు కదా, లేదా?
చేస్తున్నాం సార్.
అచ్చా, మంచిది. మీరు చెప్పేది కరెక్ట్ అండి. దట్ ఈస్ ద ట్రెడిషనల్ అండ్ ది classical standard way of looking at profitability. That is basically an accountant's approach antam manam.
I can add something, sir, if you permit.
Yeah, please.
It may be a financial or non-financial gain that you make after operating some business. Maybe buying, operating, producing, maybe a brand value that you can make out of it, or the valuation of that you can make that time, may not be a financial gain, but monetary or non-monetary benefit, whatever is there that you achieve after operating some business.
You're right. Again, it's quite a similar one. I'll give you a slightly different perspective in the next slides. What the leaders look for, business leaders. See, Mukesh Ambani, profit or loss is not guaranteed. That depends on the consumer and depends on the product. And there is a risk that business people take.
Sir, sorry to interfere, sir. Slides move out, sir.
Move avleda? Hello. Ippudu?
లేదు sir. Slides full screen kuda ravatledu. Now it's moving, sir.
Ippudu?
Okay, sir. Ippudu slide move అయింది, sir.
అచ్చా, ఇప్పుడు వచ్చిందా?
Full screen రాలేదు, sir.
Full screen రాలేదా? 1 minute.
Maybe ఒకసారి stop sharing the screen and then.
Okay. 1 minute. Stop sharing, Lakshmi madam. Okay.
Malla share.
Okay. ఇప్పుడు
లేదు సార్.
రాలేదా?
Sir, rather than sharing the PPT, please share your screen, sir, so that screen మీద.
Now that's what I'm doing, sharing the screen. New share, settings, stop video, stop share your, okay, stop share. Let me just take it out here. Now one more participant can share, multiple participants can share. Okay, this is one participant can share at a time. Adi click chestunnanma. Let me see this again.
మీరు డైరెక్ట్ గా షేర్ అనేస్తే పైన స్క్రీన్ అంటుంది కదా సార్, పీపీటీ బదులు స్క్రీన్ షేర్ చేయండి, అప్పుడు మీరు పీపీటీ
అది కింద వస్తుంది నాకు. షేర్ స్క్రీన్ లో I have set it down. I have set it down here, view. 1 minute. ఇప్పుడు దాకా కనిపిస్తుంది కదా,
కనిపించింది కానీ ఫుల్ స్క్రీన్ లేదు సార్.
ఓకే, షేర్ ఈవెన్ నౌ.
ఇప్పుడు కూడా పీపీటీ కనిపిస్తుంది సార్. పీపీటీ
ఫుల్ స్క్రీన్ కనపట్లేదా?
లేదు సార్.
Oh my God. I'll do one thing. Lakshmi, can I send this to you then right now?
Yes, sir, please.
I'll just I'm sorry, just give me a minute. I'll send this to Lakshmi so that she can share it.
Sir.
Just give me a minute, please. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Okay, sir.
లక్ష్మి గారు పంపించాను, వచ్చిందా?
I'm checking, sir. ఇంకా రాలేదు.
Yeah. I'm surprised. Normally we are able to share it. I don't know what's the issue here. Gallery view. వచ్చిందమ్మా? వచ్చిందా?
సార్ ఇంకా రాలేదు సార్.
వచ్చింది సార్. రిసీవ్డ్ సార్. ఎస్ సార్,
రిసీవ్డ్
సార్.
వచ్చింది కదా?
సార్ యు ఆర్ డౌన్లోడింగ్ ఇట్ సార్.
ఓకే, రైట్. So Lakshmi garu, you will be there and you will manage the screen.
Yeah, sir.
I will keep telling you. Meer untaru kada?
Certainly, sir.
Okay, good. Coming, ma?
Hello, Naresh.
Sir, I think
it's downloading, sir. Already 50%
connection is a little low.
Okay. Is it now
yes,
visible?
Sir. Yes, sir. It's now fine.
Visible?
కనిపిస్తుంది సార్.
Full screen కనిపిస్తుంది కదా?
కనిపిస్తుంది సార్.
Okay. Let me proceed then.
Yeah, sir.
Okay. I think as we were talking, so let's see what business people say. Now here, I'll just put my pointer so that you have the, yeah. This is Mukesh Ambani's statement. Profit and loss is not guaranteed, it's an outcome. And here you see one of the doyens of management, Peter Drucker, one of the oldest. Profit is not a cause, but a result of various events. See this. Profit is the ignition system of our economic engine. Again, this is by Charles Sawyer, is another leading. To get profit without risk, experience without danger, and reward without work is as impossible as to be living without born again. And here, this is another, your profit reflects the success of your customers. And I end with Ratan Tata's quote. I admire people who are very successful, that means very profitable and successful, but if that success has been achieved through too much of ruthlessness, then I may admire that person, but I can't respect him. See the view of, there is one more saying which is again attributed to Peter Drucker. He says that profit is the premium which you pay for, or the insurance for the business. That means the profit, if you are able to make profit, then the opportunity for growth is always higher. So if you see, all the 3-4 of you, Mir Cheppindi, yes, is the classical way of looking at, the standard way of looking at profitability, which just describes the financial benefits realized when revenue exceeds expenses, costs, and taxes. That's a classical way. Yes, that's the way that you have to look at it. But you have to understand that the meaning of profit, the use of profit is far, far more than pure excess of revenue over expenditure. It is the evaluation. It is the trigger point for further investment. It is the trigger point for various activities which are related, economic activities, which just does not stop with profitability alone. It also talks about economic development, labor market improvement, growth in business, expansion in business, etc., etc. You take some of the leading companies, they continue to be profitable. But the critical element is that unless, go back to Mukesh's statement, unless you have a good product and you have a good customer base, only then you have a good possibility of making. So remember that profit is the outcome of certain set of activities. It is bound to be there, and that will be when revenue exceeds the expenditure. But profit has to be looked at not only from an accounting point of view, but also from an economic point of view, and also a management point of view, what exactly it means. Okay, so this is the meaning of profit. Now here we're going to talk about flexibility of profit, wherein I will now be taking a little bit more details of, it will be more a class now, wherein I'll be breaking down all the elements of profit, giving some management approaches towards things. What should be the analysis? What is the meaning of these costs and revenues? How do we look at it? And I will take you through those examples. So it will be more a class of understanding. It will be more financial management driven thing, and giving you the opportunities to find out how and where you can look at improving your profitability or reducing your losses. Now, coming back to this slide, obviously the opposite of profit is a loss, where expenses exceed revenues. And today, if you see all the top companies, you take Baiju, you take Walmart, you take Amazon, you take all these companies, they are at a loss, but still the valuation is in stratosphere is so very high. Why? This is because the opportunities continue to be still high, and they are continuing to invest through equity. So this is the issue, but a time will come definitely that they are going to be profitable. Even Paytm has not made profits when it made out one of the biggest IPOs. But now the new IPO which is coming is LIC. LIC has been in business for about 70 to 80 years. They are highly profitable. So they are now going into the market to encash on that. So now, as an example, what exactly, when I go into this, this is extract from Hindustan Levers, now HUL Limited, wherein here we have operating revenues. Just to give you an idea of, this is the standard template which is now prescribed by the Companies Act, where all listed companies are supposed to declare their results, the detailed results, wherein these are the information which are generally prescribed. So you have the revenues, which is sales, And normally every company has got some other income, which is in the form of interest, scrap sales and whatnot. And the major for manufacturing. Now my entire presentation is largely based on a manufacturing. The assumption is that of a manufacturing entity, but the same logic applies for services industry also. So this is the basic material consumption that is happening, the various changes of inventory, the employee benefit. So finally, finance cost. Then you have the total expenditure, and this is the profit and loss before exceptional items, which is this amount. All of you can see my cursor, right? The figures which I'm pointing to.
Yes, sir.
So now this is I will, as I go along, I'll show you the more at the bottom. This is the profit and loss after all expenditure. This is some exceptional items. I will not get into details there. This is the profit before tax. Now you have taxation, and this is the total tax, and this is the profit after tax. Now the critical element here, there's the two elements which I've shown over here. So the profit, if you look at it, is 7,954 crores for the year after tax. Now this is the money which is available to the company to do whatever they wish, whether it's for dividends or for investments or for continue or payback, like TCS is doing a payback because they have so much of cash, they want to buy back the shares. Now out of this, the cash profit here is nothing but the profit after tax plus depreciation. And EBIT is, this is the focus for most of the startups should be at this level, that is earnings before depreciation, interest and tax. That basically indicates to you what the operating profit of the company is. That is before your depreciation, because that's an amortization of an expenditure incurred upfront. Interest, because interest can be varying depending on the capital structure of the company, and taxes. Taxes obviously will come only when you're having profits. When there is losses, you will not have taxes. So this is a very critical parameter for any business, whether it's small, large, or gigantic, whatever it is. Any business, cash profit is one, and then operating profit is the other important parameter which one should keep in mind. So I will be focusing now more and more. This gives you an idea of what a P&L will look like, and therefore what are the elements of profitability. Now let's look at what are the types of profits. Now in this statement, I don't know how much those of you who would have studied commerce, there used to be those days what is called the trading profit and loss account. Then there used to be gross profit, and then there would be a net profit. But now you don't show it as gross profit, you show it more as operating profit. But gross profit means sales less material cost and whatever direct costs that are associated with the manufacturing process. That is, it could be transportation, direct consumption items, and all those items. Those are the direct costs which are associated with sales, is reduced from sales, and that brings out the gross profit. Before that, anybody has any queries in between, please feel free to ask me. So there's I have no problem. In fact, I would like more and more participation to take place. So now this indicates the value addition. See, you have to understand it from an economic point of view, is the higher the gap between the sales and the material cost, that is, the higher the gross profit, that means you are adding more and more value to it. Like, for example, if you're just taking iron ore and converting it into steel, the value addition of iron ore to steel is very high. So similarly, so that indicates the higher the gross profit margin, it indicates that there is a higher value addition that is going to take place. We will go into it more in detail as we go. So, and therefore, and higher the margin also means two things. Remember, not only is the value addition, it also could mean in technology-oriented companies and service-oriented companies, it is the risk element. In business, there is a risk. The risk and reward, as the saying goes, go hand in hand. The higher the risk, the higher the reward. So in a technological-oriented company where attrition is very high, technology changes are so very rapid, you have to make higher margins if you want to reinvest into the business. So you got to have higher margins also for that. So this indicates, so a good margin, gross profit margin, is the first step for you to understand whether your business is going to be profitable in the long run, and it gives you the flexibility of reinvesting into your business and growing in your business. Now, once gross profit is identified, we go down to this is what today in the Hindustan Lever statement, you don't see gross profit, because this is the good old days. When I studied commerce, this is what they used to tell me. First, the trading profit and loss account, gross profit, net profit. Now, the Companies Act directly goes into the operating profit, which is this, nothing but this. This is the operating profit, EBIT as it is called. So now, if you want to take, since I started out the gross profit, this is gross profit less all expenses, also known as EBIT, earning before interest, depreciation, and taxes. And it also indicates what is the cash profit that you're going to make in the product, and what are the technology, and based on the equipment and technology invested. And again, this also gives an operating profit today, also gives you a flexibility to borrow money, because today if you go to any banker, the first thing he looks at is your operating margins. If your operating margins is good, then he has got the comfort level that you have the ability to pay the interest as well as the loan repayment. So I'm sure many of you who are in business will know that these are the credit ratings, which credit analysis, which all the bankers do, is whether you have the DSCR, debt service coverage ratio as it is called, and interest coverage ratio as it is called, with the operating profit. So this again gives you, this is a true indicator of whether your business is genuinely making money or not. Is EBIT, because this is, now you may have invested. So why is most of the investors, why are most of the people focusing, and analysts focus a lot on EBIT? Because this tells the fundamental structure, because your interest can depend on your borrowing capability. Suppose you are highly capitalized, that is, you have a high amount of equity, like which is the case in most of the service companies, you will have a very low interest. While if you're a manufacturing company and if you're highly leveraged, you're taking a lot of borrowings, then your interest will be very high. So that may or may not give the banker or the analyst an indication of if they go only on the profit after interest, profit before tax or profit after tax, they will not be able to know what is the operating income, operating margins, because interest may eat up a lot of the business, of the profits. So those are the issues which come out of this analysis. So operating profit is the most important thing for understanding whether how profitable you are, what is the opportunities that you have, how you are availing of your opportunities. You have to understand that you have to remember that profit is a result of all your activities. Good sales, controlled expenditure, good profits. So is a result of your activities. Now, this is the classical net profit, because this is ultimately the money that is left behind with the company and to either distribute to the shareholders, whatever it is. So again, from an accounting point of view, it is operating profit, which we saw in the previous slide, less interest and depreciation. And depreciation will include amortization and goodwill write-offs. Depreciation is classically for any asset which you buy. Suppose you buy a machine, you will have to write it off over a period of 10 years. So every year you may write off equally 10%, 10%, 10%. And in addition to that, there is what is called goodwill, that is basically where intangibles come, like patents. You've incurred a lot of expenditure on research and development and activities, patents that you have of your product, or you've acquired a particular company at a higher value, and there is an element in accounting terminology, there's what is called a goodwill. Now, this also has to be written off over a period of time. So like you must have read in so many companies that they have acquired so much, but because like Walmart themselves, they have written off the acquisition of Flipkart 2 years back, because that is a goodwill. They feel they're downscaling the amount that they have paid for it by writing it off in the P&L account. So these are the write-offs. So that include, these are all what is called cash costs which have been incurred in the past, but because the benefit of that accrues over a long period of time, you write it off over a period of time. I will come into details, more in details of this. So again, net profit indicates the profitability of the business, and margins, of course, how we do it. Then net profit after taxes is obviously when you reduce the income tax from this. Now, this leftover profit after taxes is what is used by the management to either plow back into the company for expansion, for acquisitions, new product introductions, whatever it is, and also to pay dividends if they wish to. So that's the various types of profits. But again, coming down to the next one, this for me is the most important, particularly for a startup, particularly for those companies and businesses which are struggling, especially during the pandemic time. All of us generally keep on telling our mentors, our mentees, and the various people that focus on cash profit. Doesn't matter if you're not making overall profit. Is when how it is calculated. Obviously, you will add back the net profit before taxes. You will add back the depreciation and the amortization. So that means, since depreciation and amortization, as I had mentioned earlier, is a cash that has already been incurred about many years back. So that's not a cash outflow in that particular year, current year as such. So you add it back to the profit. That indicates a cash profit that is there. This is one of the strongest indicators of profitability and indicates how much of cash that is being generated. And as I said, during pandemic times, the focus shifts from net profit to managing cash profits. I'm sure many of you businesses would have been advised by very many people, and I'm sure you will subconsciously start focusing on managing cash rather than net profit. That has been the standard approach of any businessman, is to keep the cash. That means fundamentally all cash outflows is compensated by revenues to that extent. So that's how the business operates by and large. And if you also, there are some, I don't have unfortunately the saying, there are quite a few of the businessmen, leading businessmen, and Narayan Murthy has said one thing, that profitability can be window dressed. You know the meaning of window dressing, many of the people do, but cash profits, cash generation can't be dressed. So cash profits become even more important for understanding the true profitability of the company. And as it indicated, the cash profit, the depreciation can be, again, there are different ways of depreciation, which I will talk about. Interest, of course, is another element which we can look at. But you have to reduce interest for you to understand the cash profit, because interest is a cash outflow. So you cannot avoid that from being deducted to arrive at the cash profit. So any queries so far? I hope I'm going at the right pace.
Yes, sir. Fine.
So I'll proceed then. Now, how do each one of you read profit? So there are, as I said, as you know, any business, however big or however small, there are many stakeholders associated with it. First and foremost, I would always rate the first stakeholder is your management, and that's basically your employees. There are lots of people who keep saying customer is king, you must only focus on customer. Yes, you need to have focus on your customer because that's the objective of your existence. But for your existence, your strongest support, strongest shareholder or stakeholder are your employees. For me, I always, in all my organizations, for me, employee always come first, even before creditors, some of them. Never delay salary payments, ensure that the salary is paid on time. So because they are the core of your operations. Without them, you will not be able to even achieve regular sales. So first and foremost is the management who has to decide, who understand. So they will, as I said, they will look at whether they want to share the profits through dividends or they want to further invest. There are so many profitable companies who almost only pay about 20% of their payout. There's what's called the payout ratio. They only pay about 15 to 20% of their profits in the form of dividends. There are some companies who pay 80 to 90% of their profits. Like, unfortunately, classically, many of the public sector undertakings come under the latter category because of the financial, because of the finance ministry, and the government wants the fiscal deficit to be bridged. They like their public sector undertakings generally to start declaring huge dividends if they are profitable, to be given in the month of February and March, so that it goes into their books and reduces the fiscal deficit. So there are dividend payouts can vary up to 80, 100, sometimes even more than 100%, provided that they have adequate reserves of the past. So dividend payout is a critical element. But by and large, good, decent companies will only give not more than 25, maximum up to 30 to 40% of their profits after tax as dividend, and they will allow 50 to 60% of their business, of the profits, to be plowed back into the business. So this will help in, see, the profit, as I said, a profitability is an insurance for growth, insurance of the business, because anybody, if you are only profitable, will people look at you. If you're not profitable, people will not look at you. So therefore, being profitable has its own advantages in ensuring that you will be able to grow. So you'll be able to introduce new products, go to new geographies, maybe export markets, as the saying goes, enhance your production facilities, maybe more efficient production facilities, geographies, and you may want to acquire some companies, as the saying goes. Many of the companies, especially the information technology sector, have grown through acquisitions. Now, this is, as I said, the first and foremost, and then of course, it is the critical. The employees play a very crucial role. They will also, as a management, you would always try to ensure that they are paid well, they're paid the proper bonuses, and whatever advantages that they would get being associated with a profitable company. Now, how do the other stakeholders view it? Obviously, the government will look at it to ensure that the taxes are going to be there. So they will be, the starting point is a tax. So the income tax officer will look at taxes. So that's one of the areas. What do the investors look for? Hello? Hello? There's some disturbance. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes,
okay.
Sir.
What do the investors look for? The investors today, earlier in my father's days, they used to only look at one element, which is the dividends. When he invested, he used to tell me, yeah, it pays very good dividends, so we should invest in that company. I was a child at that time, I didn't know that. So he used to invest, those days, investment in stock markets was very, very limited. But today, it is actually the share prices which drive the investors' thought process, not dividends. As I said, in fact, if I were to ask me, I would say the company should pay lesser dividends and reinvest into the business. So that enhances the share prices. So here you have a better opportunity in dividends. And of course, newer companies, I mean, new investors will look at your profitability and say, okay, I'd like to be a consistently profitable company, so I'd like to be a part of it, buy the shares or invest in the shares as such. Now, again, you also have lending agencies, the banks. See, unfortunately, the business is such that if you're doing well, you always will have the bankers lining up in front of you wanting to give you a loan. If you're in losses, they will not come to you. So that's unfortunately the reality. But whatever it is, there are lending agencies will look at your credit rating, as I said, debt services capability. They will look at your profit and loss account and evaluate it. Only then they will be able to give you the loans. Now, you also have the other stakeholder in your business is your creditor. Please don't think that he is just a vendor. He is also, the vendor is very, very important to you because he is giving you raw materials. He will also be, when I was running some companies and where we've had difficult times because of the accident and fire accident, we were running losses for about 2-3 years. Many of my customers asked me, is the company sinking? What are you going to do with the business? Do we give you credit? They started reducing my credit. They're saying that I will pay you. If you take the materials, you'll have to either give me LC or give me advance. So those are the issues which will come up because the creditors will, the vendors also will be keen to know how you're running your business. And for them, the profit and loss account is the only document that is available. And of course, other than the information which they get through interactions with the company, but the profit and loss. So they will ask you for how profitable you are, what steps you're taking, especially when we have very leading companies whom we are buying from, they'll be concerned. So they don't want them to supply goods and we don't pay it on time or we don't pay it at all. So continuation of trade becomes a very, very important aspect of from the creditors. And of course, as I said, employees, they will look for, and if you have unions, obviously they will want a higher amount of raise, etc., etc. But in a way, it is good. See, if you have a set of satisfied employees, you will be able to perform better. That's the belief that today most of the people are having, that employee is also a part of the management team and the growth, and they also are part of the success story. So this is how, by and large, your profitability is read by them. Now let's come down to the subject is, so I gave you a brief understanding of the elements of profit. What are the concepts of profit, how it is looked at from an economic point of view, from an accountant point of view, from a business point of view, and from other stakeholders. So now the whole opportunity is for us to look at its flexibility. So obviously now we're coming down to accounting. So what are the components? Obviously the profit is an outcome of revenue and costs. Am I right? I mean, this is what people had said in the beginning, which is the correct thing. So obviously you have sales, service, interest, miscellaneous income, which is always their cost items. So these are the components of the profit. Now let's look at each one of them to focus on how do you have flexibility. As I said, the underlying theme of this talk is flexibility. So what can give you flexibility? Is flexibility can be achieved only in those things which you have a little bit more of say in, is it not? If somebody else is dictating what you should do, what flexibility do you have? You don't have much of flexibility. So therefore, the first item which is largely under your control is always the costs. Revenue is a result. Revenue is a result of your actions, your strategy, your objective. But to achieve that, the only thing that is largely under your control is costs. So we focus. I'm starting this presentation by the flexibility by looking at cost front and then coming down to revenue, because revenue is a play of strategy, marketing, and so many other elements. So is also cost, but cost is something which is coming under your control. So therefore, I have classified, this is my standard approach towards any business. I'm sure in many of the textbooks also you have this, but for me, this is the most important thing. For me, as from a business point of view, I look at two basic costs. The first is to identify whether they are controllable and non-controllable. I'll discuss in detail. And the other element which I'll look at is fixed. These are the two other elements. Of course, every element of cost is important, but the ability for you to manage them is something which you have to look at. Because cost management, always remember, is not so very easy. Just you can reduce costs, but cost reduction is just the easiest, but the most, if I may use the word, stupidest things to do. You should try to get the best out of cost rather than just reducing the cost. First, evaluate the elements of controllability, identify what is within your control and what is not in your control. This is one element, which is, according to me, one of the most important elements. The other element components is direct costs, variable costs, semi-variable costs, and fixed costs. So this we will discuss as we go along, and I'm sure you would have understood by now what is the meaning of this. Now, the other costs which are there is capex, which is generally one-time costs. So this capex cost is something which is very, very important how you analyze it, because you do it once in a while. A lot of attention is needed. And operational costs is all those costs which are incurred, which is a part wherein you will have direct, variable, semi, all a part of the operational cost. I've intentionally classified interest and finance costs separately, and the non-finance costs, which is the depreciation, amortization, separately, because these are elements which are slightly different from the direct variable. So I will discuss now. These are the broad 5 elements of cost categorization which are made so that one understands how do you manage them for achieving profitability and flexibility. If you remember, what is largely under your control is your cost. If you're able to improve your cost even by 5%, your ability to make profitability directly goes into the bottom line. So your profitability automatically improves, provided, of course, your sales continue to be at the same level, the sell prices continue to be at the same level. So the cost is something under your control. So a managing of costs, that's why you have, I'm sure you must have heard of Kaizen, you heard of so many studies which are there to bring about benefits in costs and improvement in costs. So now I think I would like people now to understand this slide and tell me whether they share my thoughts or not. Controllable and non-controllable. Controllable, do all of you feel that this is the right thing which is controllable? I would like to have a feedback. As I said, participation is the key of fastest way of learning, sir and madams. Controllable, do you understand the meaning of costs which are under your control? Fixed expenses such as rent, wages, material, power consumption, etc. They are under your control. Do you agree with me or not? Hello, am I the only one speaking?
Yes, sir. Agreed, sir.
Okay, so this is the basic classification I'm giving you, but there is an inherent contradiction here also in my own statement. Wages, material, power consumption, etc. though I'm saying is controllable, may not be totally under your control. That's why I'm summing the next statement. For example, in cases where the prices may not be, electricity, for example, tariff is not under your control. Even if you have a generator, you don't have the diesel under your control prices, so you will have to learn to manage it. But its consumption and its usages can be under your control. So you have to analyze your elements of cost in such a fashion. Now, rent, you may have actually bought a product, I mean, taken a warehouse, for example, for a large warehouse, and then you find that your business volumes are not going up to that extent. So do you need to have such a large warehouse? Maybe a smaller warehouse is essential. So those are the how you look at, because irrespective of your utilization, the rent continues to be high. Wages also, you may have, wages can be classified into direct wages, indirect wages, support wages, and all those things. So you'll have to see whether your indirect wages, like in IT business, but there is a rule of thumb that the support services should not exceed more than 20% of the total strength. That means 80% of the employees are basically productive. They are the frontline guy. Only 15 to 20% of the employee staff are in HR, finance, all the support function, administration functions. So these are rule of thumbs generally which are used. But suppose you have 30% of your employee strength are in support staff, obviously you are higher. So you have to look at how do you manage it. So these are the examples of how you handle costs. Now, obviously, coming down to non-controllable, obviously it means it is the one which is not under your control. The classical issue is GST, customs duty. This is all government taxes. They are all controlled by the government. You don't have any say. If you don't pay GST, that means you're in illegal operations. That's not the correct, that's not the objective of study of the discussion at all. So the question is GST. If it is GST, 18% GST, 20% GST, 28% GST, those are the issues which are not in your control. So you have to see how best that you will have to learn to live with it, educate your customers accordingly. If you're buying, if you're having vendors, so you have to utilize that input tax also effectively, efficiently for you to get the benefit of that. Now, the other I've intentionally brought about monopolistic vendors is like, as I said, petroleum products. You don't have any control on that. The prices, they will decide to raise it whenever they wish. And you have steel, sometimes cement. I mean, the cement is largely a multi company, but there is a cartelization which takes place. So therefore, they control the prices. One of the biggest monopolistic is Reliance in all the polychemical products, petrochemical products. They are one of the largest. They almost control 80 to 90% of the market share. So they are very monopolistic in their pricing. They will decide to raise the price. And their terms of payment are also such that unless you pay cash or give LC, only then they will give you the money, give you the product. So you have these elements which you have to look at it. And especially for small scale industries, small scale people, when they are dealing with big companies, they are going to be dictating the terms for you. So you have, those are the approaches which you have to look at it, because that's a part of business. You cannot wish it away. So you have to learn how do you handle it. So that's the first is the classification. How do you learn to handle it is something which you have to work on it on a regular basis, find out alternatives, etc., etc. So I think, so this is one element which for me is one of the most important elements in flexibility of for profitability. Here. So now how do we deal with it? So I think the first step is to try and see how much you can bring it into convert the non-controllable into controllable. That's one of the first elements. Then you have to look at cost of effective technologies by leveraging on technologies, the scale, the transportation. Here, what we used to do now, you have a 40-tonner and a 60-tonner vehicles available for transportation. Earlier, for 20 years back, you had only a 10-tonner lorry. So, and you have 1-tonner within the city, 5-tonner, 2-tonners. You have the size of, giving you the example of size. So, depending on your volume, your distribution, the distance, etc., you have the flexibility to decide which size of vehicles you can use. Accordingly, the costs will be manageable. So that's how you look at it. These are the examples which I'm talking about. And as I told you, look at cost efficiency maximization and not cost reduction. Cost reduction by itself, I'll tell you, I'll share an example with you. One of the first things when we were going through in a meeting within our company, when we after the fire accident in 2012, we were very difficult. So I called for a meeting among my senior guys. So they said, no, we'll stop all canteen food, chai, why, etc. We'll stop all of them. What should have been my reaction? Can anybody guess? Please. What should have been my reaction? Can anybody guess? Nobody. Okay, I think we're running out of time also. Hello. I think I heard somebody say.
Probably rather than cutting off all the benefits you are providing, probably you might have suggested to work for more hours or something, sir.
Yeah, in fact, I shot it down totally and said the negative effect of reducing food is going to be far more counterproductive on productivity than saving on any cost. You'll have a double whammy. Not only will you lose the small gain of stopping tea, coffee, etc. and food is very minimalistic, but what you do is lose out is more the productivity. In the factory, they will say no lunch, so I'll go home for lunch and come after 2 hours. In the afternoon, they will say I'll come after an administrative corporate office. They'll say I'll go for lunch. So I have to come and rest. So the productivity is lost through such small things. So that's why I kept saying that don't look at cost reduction. In fact, I said I would rather enhance. In fact, of course, I did not, Lakshmi, I did not ask them to work extra time. They worked it themselves. But I said, you give them more, let the food be given. What we were charging from them, we will not charge also. So those are the others. So you don't look at cost reduction totally. You have to look at cost efficiency maximization rather than pure cost. So of course, then you can have through CapEx, you can look at automation in production, etc. Outsourcing of some function, like for example, HR. See, as I said, there is another element which if you have a very large HR team and payroll, today you have very good outsourcing capabilities. Payroll can be given, etc. So there is it becomes a variable cost. So rather than having employees training, etc., you can totally outsource it. So these are small examples which you can have. It will be more efficiently managed. And then for any capex decision, as I said, do cost benefit analysis, payback, buy or lease option, and then do it. Lakshmi, I have time till 12:30.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
12:30 is it? Okay. Okay. So I just wanted to. So these are the how do you manage? What would be the strategy for doing it? As I said, again, I'm repeating, cost is an element which is under your control by and large. So therefore, the ability for you to managing that will be the first step towards looking at flexibility and profitability. Because revenue, you are going to deal with the market. So your action may not necessarily immediately result in a benefit, may or may not. But cost is something which you are under control. So therefore, you'll be able to get the benefit of the costs, which decisions that you're making. So that is why I give a lot of emphasis to identifying controllable and non-controllable costs and accordingly taking decisions. Now, the next element is, I think this is fairly straightforward, but again, this is very important in one of the elements which I will talk about. Direct cost is something which is essential for making, selling a product. That is a material cost, transport cost, direct wages, direct selling expenditure, etc. There's nothing much you can do about it other than managing the costs and maximizing the efficiency. So like, for example, what we used to do, we instead of having a fixed sales force salary, we made 70% of it fixed and 30% of it variable based on volumes. So these are certain ways and methodologies that you have to bring in for enhancing incentives, as well as trying to control cost and try to make it more efficient. In fact, what happened is when we introduced that in 2014 for improving sales, our turnover went up by almost 15%, which is a great thing those days, because when the growth was hardly 8 to 9%, our turnover in the domestic market went up by almost 15%. So the incentive, how do you convert? That's the next thing which I come down to. So variable cost. See, this is a direct cost which is basis based on like material cost, transportation cost. See, suppose you need 1 kg of some raw material for some element. If 2 units are produced, so you need 2 kgs. So this is a direct relation. The issue is, can I reduce 1 kg to 0.8, 0.9? Those would be the elements that you have to look at. And as I was talking about selling costs, the variable cost is what we did was the fixed selling costs. We were hardly having 1 or 2%. At that time, they used to give only at the end of the year more as a gratis some selling bonuses. We introduced that into the business. So we converted a part of fixed cost into variable cost. And the benefit of that also we also got. So the whole issue is, how do you manage the cost efficiently rather than cutting it or trying to, and the whole objective is to incentivize it. So we increased from 5% to 30%, 25 to 30%, we increased the variable elements for a salesman. Similarly for wages also we did. Wages also, we said, if it is up to an X amount of production, you'll get this. If it is more, you will get 5%. If it's 10% more, you get 20%. So our volumes also start going up. So the concept is, how do you convert some of your fixed costs into variable costs and therefore get the benefits of it? So that's the business. So semi-variable is something which is partially, like, for example, you have the warehouse which I talked about. So you will have a large portion of it is fixed. So the power, for example, and the number of people attending to the warehouse, that is something which can be reduced, not directly to the production or the utilization. It has to be on a certain basis. That's why they come under the fixed variable category. Again, the challenge would be to, how do I convert it either into variable or into a fixed cost? So these are the challenges and the opportunities which are there. Of course, fixed cost is something which is constant. The rent of administrative office, senior staff, normally in businesses, they say the biggest cost is the top management, because they don't directly produce, they're not directly associated with the business. So yes, that is something. So there also we introduced variability, because higher the profitability, we brought in the flexible incentives, etc. for senior staff also. We brought in ESOPs, etc. That's most of the issue. So it's not totally fixed salaries. There is an element of variability. In fact, for senior staff, we increase it to 40% of their salaries would be based on performance of turnover, profitability as such. So the higher the profit, you get a better salary, no issues. So that's the concept of direct, variable, semi-variable, and fixed is this. Any questions till now? So I'll proceed. Again, as I had mentioned, OPEX is largely corollary what we've discussed. CAPEX is generally a capital expenditure is for equipment, for any technology related issues, hardware and whatnot, wherein the lifespan is normally 3 to 5 years and above. It varies from that. And they are essential for making the product and the service. So this is a CAPEX, and the decision for buying a CAPEX has to be given a lot of thought before you invest, because the money that is invested in CAPEX, because you'll have to pay it within a certain period of time. You may not even start the business. So this is an upfront investment that is being made by you. So you have to be very conscious that you are going to get the benefits of that, either through proper analysis, understanding the market requirement, capacity, proper Have you got the proper capacity for the equipment, for the manufacturing machinery as such? So there are some financial tools which they're not. Don't be too very carried away. They are very simple. You go into an Excel sheet itself, you'll be able to do this. What is the payback? That is, what is the benefit that you're getting by increased in turnover, increase in revenue, and what is the cost of the capital? So within how many months or how many years does the capital equipment pay itself back? That's why it's called payback. By and large, obviously, the shorter the payback period, the better it is. So that's one of the simplistic way of looking at it. The other one is obviously any capital decision, whether it is increasing capacities and thereby meeting the market needs and therefore improving profitability. So you have to do a cost benefit analysis, because normally when you increase capacity, your fixed cost does not increase proportionately. The fixed cost will be more or less the same. So you're able to introduce more and more volumes into the market, and therefore the direct margins which you're getting will improve your profitability, because fixed cost, the sales guy will be able to enhance his sales. Same as you'll have to ensure that the workers also are properly manned. You can't cut your wages cost to that extent or sales cost. It has to be, you stretch them to that extent that is possible for you to get the direct benefit. There are other tools like NPV, that is net present value, internal rate of return, which are standard capital budgeting tools, as they are called. These are all again based on what is the rate of return that is expected, and NPV means net present value is if the benefits that it comes is positive over a period of time. This is based on discounted cash flow basis over 5 years or 7 years. So if it's a positive after having considered the cost of capital, then it is worthwhile. IRR is again wherein on a discounted basis at a particular rate of interest, rate of return, it is at 0. So the higher the rate of return, the better it is. So these are the tools. So capital decision is something has to be made very, very consciously. I think operating expenses we have already discussed, so I'm not going to talk about it. So the other one is finance costs. Now, obviously here there are two elements, which I'll be coming the next year, is interest cost. So now this is basically based on working capital effective. Now here, and loans is a fixed component which is period. Now, how do you manage these costs? These are some costs wherein working capital is, again, that is a subject by itself. Working capital management is a subject by itself. That's how well you are able to achieve your current assets and your current liabilities so that your bank borrowings are minimal. So if for example, if your sales are largely on cash, I think it's one of the most ideal working capital management, which is called the net care, and you have your payables on a certain credit period. So you have a negative net working capital, as what is called. That is, your current assets are just basically cash and liabilities are there. So you have the benefit so you will not have to borrow much. But if you are giving 180 days credit and you are paying your raw materials within 30 days, then you're going to have a lot of trouble. So you will have to learn how to manage your current assets, your receivables, your inventory. All these are, as I said, working capital management for flexibility of profitability is a huge subject by itself. It will be varying from business to business, zone to zone, market to market. It varies. There's a buyer's market, there's a seller's market. So all depends on so many factors. So the interest cost is one, and the managing that is largely controlled by the flexibility of profitability comes through managing the working capital very efficiently. That is your receivables, inventory, etc. So you have to handle this properly. Loan obviously is you are taking on an equipment which has to be paid over a period of time. So therefore, obviously, you will look for getting the best productivity from that equipment over its lifespan. Now, there are other charges which are coming under the category of bank charges like LCs, etc., collection charges. These are for various. So interest and finance charges largely come under the finance charges category. And interest cost, as I said, is a fixed cost by and large, but has the capability, as I had mentioned earlier, of being a controllable cost through working capital. Working capital management is an element which is under your control. Interest rate is not under your control because that is controlled by the government, by the bankers. But amount of working capital that you're going to have, amount of inventory that you're going to have is something which can come under your controllable category. So these are how you learn how to manage your costs and thereby improve your profitability. Now, I think I've covered this, non-finance costs, etc., etc. So I'll not get into this. Depreciation, there are two methodologies. Again, I'm not getting into that. In my entire argument, generally the books are all on straight line basis, like what you saw in Hindustan Levers. Depreciation is, as I said, 10 years means 10% every year is written off. Written down value is normally used for income tax purposes, but I think I'm not going to get into that discussions right now. Non-finance costs, I think I've covered this. This is largely all basically out of acquisitions, R&D costs, etc., etc. So these are some things which, again, are not very much under your control. This is a general charge that is there. So there is very limited maneuverability in this depreciation and those related costs. Now, a critical element is business. Revenue. So far we talked about the controllable. Now we are getting into the whole purpose of being in business is revenue. And for me, the critical element is your strategy and your plan. More than the pricing, is the strategy being in the right place at the right time, at the right price, the right product, at the right market. Is by and large the standard objective of any person. So the pricing and demand, as if you remember, go back to the first slide with Mukesh Ambani, what did he say? He says, depends on the product and the customer. So if your product is well accepted, the customer will come. So it ultimately depends on the service, the product that you are providing. So this is a very critical element of this. So now what I'm doing here is covering a little bit of the strategy for deciding on business, because profitability, as I had mentioned to you, is a result of a certain outcome of your revenue and your cost management. As I said, I covered it more in detail because this is something which is within your control. But revenue is a strategic approach. So you have to decide how do you deal with revenue. Some thoughts here I've given is your market segment, whether you are in, I'm sure all of you understand B2B and B2C, etc. Am I right? Or do you want me to explain that? Lakshmi? I think all of you understand the meaning of B2B and B2C. Am I right?
Hopefully, sir. Hopefully they know that.
So anyway, B2B is business to business and B2C is business to consumer or customer. So this is an industrial, like for example, I keep talking about this chicky manufacturing unit, which I used to deal with in the military research. Many of the guys want to do chickies. So they sell it to another shop or a restaurant. That is a B2B business. But if they are selling the chicky to the open market, they go to various apartment blocks, etc., start selling. That is B2C. So it depends. Each of these businesses has its positives and negatives. B2B means your demand is one of the critical elements in revenue is demand estimation. Demand will be a little bit more appropriate because he will place an order for 100 chickies or 100 kgs of chickies, etc., etc. And with a certain price. But price may not is a very hard negotiation. He says, I'm giving you 100 kgs, so you have to give me the best price. So price may not be very much. While in B2C, in this, you don't know, you'll have to anticipate the demand. If you make 100 kgs, you don't know whether you're going to sell 100 kgs. While in B2B, you know that you're going to sell 100 kgs. So obviously there's a trade-off. So since the demand is estimated, your pricing, your margins, profit margins may not be very high. But in this case, if you're able to sell the 100 kgs and you have a good price, it's a very good benefit. So generally, when you have a B2C, you will not be able to estimate the demand. So your risk element becomes higher, and therefore, by and large, your pricing is also higher. So because you have to carry inventory, etc., etc., you have to anticipate demand. So therefore, by and large, your pricing will be more than that of the B2B. So these are the benefits, but the downside is you may have a lot of inventory and you don't know, you'll have to do a lot of marketing costs, while in the first one, you don't have to do much of marketing costs. There are so many elements which come into play to distinguish. So your customer segment becomes very important for your revenue generation. Generally, in all the interactions, I suggest a combination of these two. if you're starting a business, start off with B2B, don't start with B2C, because then your investment in marketing is going to be very, very high unless you have a very strong support system. And of course, the niche market is something which is a very, very focused market, which you have, etc., which is not very common generally in the startups, which I've noticed. So this is, again, having identified your market, how do you get your revenue? So there are multiple, for example, obviously, if it's a chicky, it's a very straightforward, cost and material cost. So therefore, it is very clearly a pricing which is clearly determined. But when it comes to services, there are so many models. They are still discovering so many models. There's a subscription model. There's a user fee model. There are so many models which are coming out right now, and you really don't know how to use, which to use. So by and large, you have to have a combination of very many things. Now, this is something which is largely applicable. Services is largely applicable to the digital segment and the technical and services segment. So this is an area which is still undergoing a lot of evolution in identifying the right revenue model. So, but you start off, it also depends on how the market is also. Let's also be very clear. Most of the startups are followers in the business, because you're not leaders in the business as yet. Then you wouldn't be a startup. So you will have to, by and large, follow what the market practices are for your product and for your determining your revenue plan. So now this is something which, again, it depends. The pricing for this will be largely applicable for even services. I think the classical example which I can give you is 2007, 18, 19, when Geos came into the picture. Until that time, Airtel and Vodafone were the leaders. When Jio came in, they slashed the price. That is what is called penetration price. So this is something which is very essential. The pricing what happened because of that? Vodafone is virtually in its last legs. Airtel had to revise its entire strategy. Now there is no other player in the industry other than now possibly only Airtel and Reliance. They have wiped off all the other players in the market. So these are the effects which can have, and he can do it. Reliance could do it because he was supported by Reliance Industries and huge investments. So he had deep pockets. So he knew how to. This is a classical penetration pricing, is a classical methodology to gather market share. And no time they became #1 subscriber in the market. So grab the market share and then start increasing the price later. So that's the methodology. Skimming pricing is generally used by most of these, like Apple products. When they introduce a product, they price it very high. They call it more of the fashion and a more upgraded. Then I think 2 years, 3 years down the line, they start reducing the price. So these are methodologies which are useful for knowing the price. And as I said, the pricing will differ between B2B segment and B2C segment in the chicky which I talked about. So in the revenue, the critical element always has been your demand estimation, and you will have to map it to the capacities which you're able to produce over a period of time. And the pricing is largely, very blunt to say, many of these startups may not be under your control. It will be largely predetermined by the market. So, but only thing, costs, volumes, and market is largely coming under your control. So I thought I'll just share this as some thought process on, because I think we're short of time. This is more a strategy for revenue, to keep the product at the right place at the right time, the right party. So these are the elements which go into thought process, but I'm going rushing through that. And I'll just coming down to the last few slides, wherein some suggestions is, don't be focus so much on profitability. Start off by doing a cost sheet for each product and service. Identify the costs as we had discussed, and then see where you stand. And then determine the break-even, where, as I said, cash break-even is the first most important thing, and then profit break-even. Look at what volumes and the pricing which you have determined, you're able to break even. That's very important for you to start off with. And as I said, prices are not market-driven and not cost-plus measure. So do not expect profits from each sale. And Zomato's justification, this is something which I wanted to share with you. I think all of you have seen how Zomato, but why did the market absorb them? Because they said that they have done a unit cost analysis, and when it reaches a certain volumes, they'll start making profits. So until that time, my fixed cost, my investment costs, or etc., so high, I'm not able to make profits. So that is a justification which the market accepted. Of course, monitor costs slowly. These are standard suggestions which anybody would give. But I think critical element is one of the things for a startup is always to be open for changes and flexibility. Have the passion. Do not miss sight of your objective. But there are many roads to reach your objective. You'll have to see that it is the most effective, efficient, and profitable road that you choose. Yeah, I thought I'll share some thought process of Ambani, since all of you are in the early stages of your, or maybe in the initial stages of your into entrepreneurship journey. Wish you all the best, and this will be they are the key to transforming India into a new millennium. Yeah. Any questions, Lakshmi? How much time do I have?
Sir, yes, sir. We can take the questions, sir.
How much of time?
Probably 10 to 15 minutes, sir.
Okay, good. So now, please let me know. Anybody would like to ask any questions?
Sir.
Either I've been so very clear, everybody has understood everything so wonderfully. That means Lakshmi should give me a phenomenal rating of my subject then.
It is obvious, sir, that like, yeah.
That's on a very lighter side. But
no,
I think,
sir. We would definitely say that like once you have given a lecture, no one will left out with like without understanding. But yeah, we'd like the participants to interact with sir, and if you have any queries or questions, or if you want any suggestions, sir will be more than happy. So assist. So yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, nowadays, our scenario is about the market, this one, sir, material and all.
Sorry? Market?
I'm talking about variable cost, sir. Here, what we are getting is, we are going to
tell me.
25 to 30% excess amount of raw material, sir. How to face that problem, sir?
See that problem itself, that first screen which I said, the problem itself is an opportunity. Now the 25%, how can you reduce it to maybe just equal to 1? So that means for every output of 1, you're using an input of 1.25, right?
Yes,
hello.
Yes, sir.
For one output of 1 unit, you're utilizing raw material of 1.25.
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes,
so the question is, do you have the ability, first of all, scientifically, is there a possibility for reducing 0.25? Your profitability should improve. So there are ways and means. I don't know which product you're talking about. There is technology. There would be scale issues involved. There is size, capacity involved, etc. These are the methodologies that I don't know which product you're talking about, but I'm sure if scientifically it cannot be reduced to 1.25, then your pricing also of the product gets automatically adjusted to consider 1.25 as your best price, as your best consumption cost.
Yes, sir. For time being,
but if
we can manage for 1 month or so, sir, 1 or 2 months. If it proceeds to 6 months or so, then we will be getting this material shortage and all, sir.
Sir, actually, he is into farm machinery products, sir.
Okay.
He's into producing farm machinery.
For producing, manufacturing farm machinery items.
Yeah, sir.
Okay.
He's manufacturing farm machinery.
Okay.
He's one of our incubators.
Okay. So obviously, the steel consumption will be one issue that you're talking about, right? Then whether your design is whether your equipment design is most productive. So these are some of the questions which you'll have to ask not only yourself with your industry engineer or with, I'm sure Tirupati, this institute incubator will give you whether your design is efficient itself, your equipment design or your equipment design itself is productive. whether that can be slashed, whether you can replace some of the steel with some other cost-effective items like hard plastics. So those are the options which you have to look at if you want to reduce your cost of manufacture.
Yes,
so
sir,
it has to be an open. There are methods like Kaizen. All those methodologies are different. The value engineering is a fundamental principle which you have to look at. Yeah, sorry, please.
Quality differs, sir.
Sorry.
Quality differs, sir.
Obviously, then in that case, then you should price it. See, you always remember the market will pay for quality.
Yes, sir.
Market will always, it will not happen immediately, but it will recognize quality. So they are willing to pay, like your classic example, why is Apple and Samsung the leading? Because it's a high quality phone, people are willing to, there are cheaper quality smartphones are also available, right?
Yes, sir.
But they are willing to pay because they know that once you buy. Hello. Yeah,
sir.
so, but before Mr. Abdullah, right?
Yes, sir.
Before you, I would suggest you look at how efficient is your machine, how well is it received by the customers.
Yes, sir, but we are concerned to economic this one, sir. Products, sir.
Okay.
And there is no large margin for us to differentiate, sir.
Okay.
And we are facing a big problem in this regard, sir.
Unless Mr. Abdullah, unless I know more in detail, I will not be able to say anything offhand. But okay, by and large, I'm sure the incubator, you can go into the design. I would say go right from the design stage where it meets the objectives, whether you can replace some of the equipment, some of the raw materials into some more equally effective but less cost. I know I'm generally talking. But these are options which you have to keep looking at. If the market is not willing to pay the price which you are expecting it, then obviously you have to look at your product. No, you have to look at your cost. You don't have a choice.
Yes, sir. But it's
difficult. If the market is not willing to accept your product, that means you are overcosted. No, market is ruthless, Mr. Abdullah. Market is ruthless. They will go to the best product at the cheapest price.
Yes, sir.
So you have to relook your product, or you change the design of your product to make it more effective or lesser effective. I don't know. So you have to, as I said, go back to your strategy of the particular product, objective of the particular product. That's why revenue is very, very important. Don't think that just because you expect the product to be accepted, it may not be accepted. Please. That's the fundamentals in the market. Is the customer accepting and not you are accepting is important. The customer accepting a product is more important than your accepting that you have a very great product, but the customer should also feel the same way. Yes, so in your case, maybe you have to relook at design. You may have to relook at a lot of things, I would say. You have a good opportunity, I'm sure.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Welcome. Anybody else?
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, rural business ke corporation business difference same, sir.
Anni same andi. కార్పొరేషన్ మాత్రం వాళ్ళు సేల్స్ ఆఫీసర్ వచ్చి చెప్తారు ఇది మా కంపెనీ పాలసీ ఈ ప్రైస్ లోనే అమ్మచ్చు ఇది క్వాంటిటీ మీరు తీసుకోవాలి అన్ని కార్పొరేట్ రూల్స్ అని పాలసీస్ అని ఇస్తారు. రూరల్ అంటే మీరు ఓనర్ అంటే మీరే అన్ని డిసైడ్ చేస్తారు కదా. ఓకే, మీకు యూ కెన్ మీకంటే మీరు ఓనర్ అంటే రెండు మనుషులు మీ దగ్గర వచ్చారనుకోండి, మీరు ఒక మనిషికి ఒక ప్రైస్ లో అమ్మచ్చు, ఇంకో మనిషికి ఇంకో ప్రైస్ లో కూడా అమ్మచ్చు. అది మీ చేతిలో ఉంది కదా. అదే
సార్ మేము రూరల్ లో బిజినెస్ చేస్తున్నాం సార్. ఇప్పుడు సిటీలో బిజినెస్ చేసే వాళ్ళు అంటే మాకన్నా తక్కువ కాస్ట్ కి అమ్ముతున్నారు సార్.
ఓకే,
దానివల్ల మేము కొంచెం
ఏ ప్రోడక్ట్ అండి మీది ఈ ప్రోడక్ట్ మన స్ప్రేయర్ అది
స్ప్రేయర్ సార్.
స్ప్రేయర్ అది ఏంటి పెస్టిసైడ్స్ కా?
అవును సార్.
అన్ని క్రాప్స్ కనా లేకపోతే ఏదైనా స్పెషల్ క్రాప్స్ కా? ఇది అంత ఇది కెపాసిటీ 5 లీటర్ అది.
20 లీటర్స్ సార్.
20 లీటర్. ఓ చాలా పెద్దది కదా అది.
20 లీటర్స్.
ఇది ఫిక్స్డ్ అది, ఫిక్స్డ్ కదా, కింద పెడుతున్నారు మరి?
అవును సార్.
లేకపోతే ట్రాలీలో ఉందా అది?
లేదు సార్, అది మన గెల మీద పెట్టుకొని స్ప్రే చేయడానికి సార్. మ్యాన్ ఇచ్చేసాడు సార్. మనిషి మోయకుండా సార్.
ఓ అర్థమైంది. పెద్ద పైప్ ఉండాలి మరి.
పెద్ద పైపు కనీసం అంటే 200-300 అడుగులు పైప్ స్ప్రే చేయాలి సార్.
ఓ అచ్చా, అంత సేమ్ ఇదిలో వెళ్తుందా? లెంగ్త్ ఎక్కువ అవుతే కూడా స్ప్రే సరిగానే ఉంటుందా? ఓకే,
సరిగా ఉంటుంది సార్.
మంచిది. సో చెప్పండి, మీ ప్రశ్న ఏంటి
సార్? ఇప్పుడు మాది ఏంటంటే, ఇప్పుడు మేము రూరల్ లో ఉన్నాం సార్. యాక్చువల్లీ ఇప్పుడు సిటీలో వాళ్ళు మాకన్నా తక్కువ రేటుగా అమ్ముతున్నారు సార్. అది
డైమెన్షన్స్ అన్ని సేమేనా?
సేమ్ సార్, సేమ్.
20 లీటర్ ట్యాంక్, పంప్ సైజ్ కెపాసిటీ కూడా. మీది ఏది 1 HP? అది 0.5?
1 HP సార్.
1 HP అది. మీరు 0.5 లో చేయవచ్చా?
చేస్తారు.
అది చూడండి మీరు. సిటీలో ఎలా అమ్ముతున్నారు, కెపాసిటీస్ తగ్గించి ఉంటారు కదా వాళ్ళు. బికాస్ రూరల్ లో స్పేస్ ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది, ఫార్మ్ ల్యాండ్స్ కొద్దిగా ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది కదా. సిటీలో అంటే సిటీ కన్సంప్షన్ గా సిటీలో అమ్మేసి రూరల్ కి తీసుకెళ్తున్నారు అలాగా.
సిటీలో కనుక్కొని రూరల్ కి వస్తున్నారు సార్. అది
అచ్చా అలాగా. సో అక్కడ సో సేమ్ ఐటమ్ అక్కడ రూరల్ కి తీసుకుంటున్నారు
సార్. వాళ్ళకి ఏంటంటే 4 రకాల బిజినెస్ ఉంటాయి, కానీ మేము దీని మీద డిపెండ్ అయ్యి ఉంటాం సార్.
అర్థమైంది. సో క్రాస్ సబ్సిడీ ఉండొచ్చు. క్రాస్ సబ్సిడీ అంటే మత్త ప్రొడక్ట్స్ లో ఎక్కువ మార్జిన్స్ ఉంటాయి, ఈ ప్రోడక్ట్ లో కొద్దిగా తక్కువ మార్జిన్ ఉంటాయి. సో అది మీరు ఫస్ట్ ప్రోడక్ట్ డైమెన్షన్స్ లో చూసుకోవాలండి. వాళ్ళు ఇచ్చిన ప్రోడక్ట్ మీ చేసిన ప్రోడక్ట్ సేమా లేదా అని చూసుకోవాల్సి ఉంటుంది. బట్ యాక్చువల్లీ మీకు అడ్వాంటేజ్ ఉండాల్సింది కదా, బికాస్ మీకు అంత పెద్ద లేబర్ కాస్ట్ కూడా ఉండదు, మీకు పెద్ద రెంట్ అవన్నీ ఎక్కువ ఉండదు కదా. సో
మాకు సర్వీస్ లో పర్వాలేదు సార్, కాదు సేల్స్ లోనే కొంచెం మాకు డిఫరెన్స్ కనపడుతుంది సార్. సర్వీస్ కి అయితే మా దగ్గరికి వస్తున్నారు, సేల్స్ కి వస్తే సిటీకి వెళ్ళిపోతున్నారు సార్. అది
మీ ప్రోడక్ట్ ప్రైసింగ్ ఎంత తేడా ఉంది?
సేమ్ ప్రైస్ ఉంటుంది సార్. అది నమ్మకం కొంచెం అదే డిఫరెన్స్ ఉంటుంది సార్.
అది మరి బ్రాండ్ గురించి కొద్దిగా మీరు బ్రాండింగ్ చేయాల్సుకుంటా, కొద్దిగా బ్రాండింగ్ చేసుకోవాల్సి ఉంటుంది. అది ఎప్పుడు కొద్దిగా తెలిసిన ప్రోడక్ట్ సాధారణంగా ఇది క్యాపిటల్ ఐటమ్ కదా మా ఫార్మర్ కి. ఇది అంటే మీది 20,000 25,000 ఎంత?
ఇది 75,000 సార్.
75,000? కొద్దిగా కాస్ట్ ఉంటే కొద్దిగా ఆలోచిస్తాడు కదా.
17,000 సార్.
17,500 సార్.
సో అది ఆలోచించేస్తారు కదా అది కొనే ముందు. సో ఎక్కడ ఇంకా లో ప్రైస్ లో దొరుకుతాయి అవన్నీ చూసుకుంటే మీది యాక్చువల్లీ ఎక్కువ ఐ థింక్ బ్రాండ్ లోనే ఎక్కువ చేసుకోవాల్సి ఉంటుంది. ఐ థింక్ కొద్దిగా టైఅప్స్ ఉంటే బాగుంటుంది మీకు, కొద్దిగా ఎవరితోనే రీటైల్ షాప్స్ లో టైఅప్స్ ఉంటే అది స్టార్ట్అప్ చేసుకోవచ్చు మీరు. ఐ థింక్ మీకు మీ ప్రోడక్ట్ క్వాలిటీలో తేడా లేదు, ప్రైస్ లో తేడా లేదు, ఓన్లీ మీది వాల్యూమ్స్ లేదు అంటున్నారు అంతే కదా. మీ వాల్యూమ్స్ లేకుంటే మీకు ఏది పెరిగించాలి, అది ఎలాగా పెరిగించాలి చూడాలి. దాంట్లో సాధారణంగా కొద్దిగా టైఅప్స్ ఉంటే మంచిదిగా ఉంటుంది. అది మీ బ్రాండ్ లో వెళ్ళదు. మీరు కొద్దిగా అది నేను B2B చెప్పాను, B2C చెప్పాను కదా. మీరు మీ బ్రాండ్ లో 10 ఎక్విప్మెంట్ మీరు చేస్తే 3 మీ బ్రాండ్ లో అమ్మండి, 7, 5, 6 మీరు ఒక రీటైలర్ తో టైఅప్ చేస్తే వాడు కొంటాడు. అంత ప్రైసింగ్ మీకు అంత ఎక్కువ మార్జిన్ ఉండదు దాంట్లో. బట్ రెండు కూడా నేను అదే మా అడ్వైస్ సాధారణంగా మీరు B2B కూడా చేయండి, B2C కూడా చేయండి. బట్ B2B కొద్దిగా ఎక్కువ ఉండని స్టార్టింగ్ స్టేజెస్ లో. B2B కొద్దిగా ఎక్కువ ఉంటే మంచిది, బికాజ్ మీ క్యాష్ ఫ్లో అని కొద్దిగా వస్తాయి, మార్జిన్స్ ఎక్కువ ఉండదు దాంట్లో. అర్థమైందా? బట్ మీది B2C అంటే కొద్దిగా బ్రాండ్ ఎస్టాబ్లిష్ అయినాక మీరు B2C లో కొద్దిగా ఉండండి, బట్ ఎక్కువ మీరు B2C లో వెళ్ళండి, B2B లో వెళ్ళండి.
సరే సార్.
ఓకే సార్, చెప్పండి. థ్యాంక్ యూ. Lakshmi, చెప్పమా. Anybody else?
Someone has raised hand, sir. So yeah.
సార్
చెప్పండి.
నమస్కారం సార్.
నమస్కారం అండి.
ఖాదర్ మస్తాన్నే, నా పేరు ఖాదర్ మస్తాన్ సార్.
ఆండ్రాయిడ్ బ్లూ మీ కంపెనీ పేరు అది?
కాదు సార్, వాళ్ళ ఫోన్.
ఓకే ఓకే.
ఇంటర్ కల్టివేటర్ తయారు చేశాను సార్. ఇంటర్ కల్టివేటర్ సార్.
ఇంకోసారి చెప్పండి కదిర్ గారు.
అదే ఇంటర్ కల్టివేటర్ సార్.
ఇంటర్ కల్టివేటర్.
ఇంటర్ కల్టివేటర్ కలుపు దున్నేదానికి సార్. పత్తి మిరపల్లో, కూరగాయల తోటల్లో ఆ కలుపు దున్నేదానికి, బోధులు వేసేదానికి, వాటర్ పంపింగ్ పొలానికి, మందు పిచికారి పొలంలో, ఇవన్నీ పనులు చేసిద్ది సార్ మిషన్.
ఓ మంచిది.
సో మస్తాన్ గారు, మీ క్వశ్చన్ ఏంటి? లైక్ మీరు దేని గురించి తెలుసుకోవాలనుకుంటున్నారో అడగండి. మీ క్వశ్చన్ ఏంటో అడగండి సార్.
అప్పుడు మీటింగులు జరిగినాయి కదమ్మా, వాటిల్లో నేను అంతా అటెండ్ అయ్యాను కదా లాస్ట్ లో.
ఓకే,
అదే ఈ మిషన్ గురించి చెప్దామని. ఇప్పుడు మౌలాలి గారు చెప్పారు కదా స్ప్రేయర్ గురించి.
అంటే మౌలాలి గారికి వాళ్ళు మార్కెట్ చేసుకునే దాంట్లో ఒక సందేహం ఉంటే అడిగారు. మీకు అలా ఏదైనా సందేహం ఉంటే సార్ అడిగితే చెప్తారు.
నేను కూడా అదే సార్, బయట పౌండరీల కాడ వర్క్ చేయించుకొని వస్తున్నాను. ఆ మిషన్ కి సంబంధించిన స్పేర్స్ అన్ని సొంతగా అంటూ ఒక పౌండరీ పెట్టుకుంటే మిషన్లు తొందరగా అవుతాయి, వాటిల్లో లాభాలు కూడా బాగానే వస్తాయి సార్. దానికంటే కూడా
ఫౌండరీ పెట్టాలంటున్నారా మీరు?
పౌండరీ పెట్టుకున్నామని సార్.
అది మీరు చాలా ఆలోచన చేయాలమ్మా. నేను కొద్దిగా ఎక్కువ, బికాస్ కెపాసిటీస్ ఉన్నాయి. ఇప్పుడు వేరే ఎక్కడైనా ఫౌండరీ ఉంటే అక్కడ వెళ్ళి వాళ్ళతో కొద్దిగా జాబ్ వర్క్ చేసేసి వాళ్ళతో లాంగ్ టర్మ్ కొద్దిగా కాంట్రాక్చువల్ వేస్తే అదే బెటర్. నా ఉద్దేశంతో ఎప్పుడు క్యాపిటల్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ ఎంత తక్కువ మొదలు చేసినప్పుడు ఎంత క్యాపిటల్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ తక్కువ ఉంటే అదే బాగా ఉంటుందమ్మా. బికాస్ మీ ప్రోడక్ట్ లో తర్వాత బ్రాండ్ లో రాదా ఎక్కువ ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్ చేయవచ్చు. మీ డబ్బులన్నీ మీరు ఫౌండరీలో పెడితే మీకు మార్కెటింగ్ కి, మీ ప్రోడక్ట్ డెవలప్మెంట్ లో అంతే డబ్బు ఉండదు. బికాస్ కెపాసిటీస్ ఉంటాయి కదా. ఇప్పుడు చాలా మందిలో ఫౌండరీస్ అన్ని పెడుతున్నారు, ఉన్నాయి మార్కెట్ లో కూడా ఉంది కదా ఫౌండరీ. కొద్దిగా ఖాళీగానే ఉంటాయి, కొద్దిగా ఫుల్ కెపాసిటీలో
4 పౌండరీల్లో వర్క్ చేపిస్తున్నాను సార్. పౌండరీలో వచ్చేసి ఓ పౌండరీలో హబ్బులు, ఓ పౌండరీలో వచ్చేసి గొర్రు, ఓ పౌండరీలో వచ్చేసి దానికి సంబంధించిన హ్యాండిల్స్, బెడ్లు, అట్లా 4 పౌండరీలో చేపిస్తున్నాను సార్ 4 చోట్ల.
ఎన్ని సంవత్సరాల నుంచి ఉన్నారు మీరు ఈ బిజినెస్ లో?
20 సంవత్సరాల నుండి ఈ మిషన్.
20 సంవత్సరాలు ఉన్నారా?
20 సంవత్సరాల నుండి సార్.
ఓహో. సో మీకు కొద్దిగా వాల్యూమ్స్ అన్ని ఉన్నాయి. మీరు నిన్న మొన్న స్టార్ట్ చేసేది కాదు కదా?
లేదు సార్, అంత ముందు బోట్ ఇంజన్ మెకానిక్ సార్. నేను సముద్రంలో బోట్లు ఉండేవి కదా.
ఓహో, అచ్చా.
ఆ బోట్లోకి వచ్చి మిస్ట్ బుషి ఇంజన్ వచ్చేది. మిస్ట్ బుషి ఇంజన్లు రిపేర్ చేస్తూ ఇక మిస్ట్ బుషి పవర్ టిల్లర్లు ఉండే సార్. ఆ ఇంజన్లు ఈ బోట్ కి వచ్చే ఇంజన్ ఒకటే సార్. ఈ మిషన్లు ఈ పవర్ టిల్లర్లు రిపేర్ చేస్తూ, అవేమో పెద్దవి కదా, 3 అడుగులు ఎడల్పుంటాయి. ఇది పత్తి మిరపల్లో చిన్న సాల్ట్ పెడతారు, వీటిల్లో దున్నటానికి చిన్న మిషన్ తయారు చేశాను సార్.
మంచిది.
ఈ చిన్న మిషన్ వచ్చి సార్, దీని వర్క్ ఏంటంటే, పెద్ద ట్రాక్టర్ వచ్చేసి పొలం మొత్తం నాగలు దోలాక 1-2 వర్షాలు పడ్డాక మళ్ళీ గొర్రు తోలుతారు లైట్ గా. తోలాక మళ్ళీ వర్షం పడ్డాక మొక్కలేస్తారు. దాంట్లో ఏంటంటే ఈ మిషన్ తోనే చేయాలా, లేదంటే ఎద్దులతో చేయాలా. మళ్ళా ట్రాక్టర్ బట్టి చేస్తే బరువుకి నేలనికి బెట్టకొచ్చింది సార్. ఇదేంటంటే ఈ వర్క్ అంతా అదునులో చేసే వర్క్, ఆ పొలంలో అదునులో చేసే వర్క్. వాళ్ళు ఏదో ఆర్డర్ ఇచ్చారు, మిషన్ తయారు చేస్తున్నాం అని చెప్పి.
మస్తాన్ గారు
మీరు చెప్పండి ఏం కావాలి
మీకు. అదే, మీకు ఏదైనా క్వశ్చన్ ఉంటే అడగండి సార్. ఇప్పుడు దానికి సంబంధించి మీరు మీ ప్రోడక్ట్ ని అదంతా ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయటం మళ్ళీ అంటే లైక్ ఈ సెషన్ లో కాదు, వేరే దాంట్లో చేయొచ్చు. ఇది వెబినార్ కదా. మీకు ఏదైనా మీ బిజినెస్ రన్ చేసుకునే దానికి ఏదైనా సందేహం ఉంటే మీరు దాని గురించి అడగచ్చు. మీది దాని గురించి ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయటం మళ్ళీ చేయొచ్చు సార్ కి కావాలంటే.
ఈ మిషన్ లో వచ్చి లేట్ అవుతుందమ్మా. ఈ పౌండరీల దగ్గర చేపియాలంటే చాలా లేట్ అవుతుంది. 2 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 3 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 4 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 5 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 6 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 7 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 8 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 9 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 10 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 11 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 12 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 13 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 14 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 15 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 16 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 17 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 18 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 19 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 20 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 21 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 22 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 23 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 24 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 25 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 26 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 27 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 28 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 29 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 30 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 31 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 32 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 33 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 34 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 35 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి 36 సంవత్సరాల నుంచి సొంత పౌల్ట్రీ అంటూ ఉంటే
మీకు 20 సంవత్సరం ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఉంటే, మీకు దీని గురించి చాలా బాగా తెలుసుంటే, మీరు వాల్యూమ్స్ కొద్దిగా అమ్ముతున్నారా లేదా? ఎంత వాల్యూమ్స్ అమ్ముతున్నారు మీరు?
మిషన్లు తక్కువ అమ్ముతున్నా. తక్కువ అంటే అవి వాళ్ళు మొక్కలు వేసుకొని వస్తారు మిషన్ కావాలని. ఆ కలుపు దున్నే సమయంలోనే మిషన్
మీరు హైరింగ్ కి ఇస్తారా, లేకపోతే హైరింగ్ కి ఇస్తున్నారా, లేకపోతే అమ్ముతూనే ఉన్నారా మీరు?
అమ్ముతున్నాం.
హైరింగ్ కూడా ఇవ్వచ్చు కదా మీరు?
ఏం సార్,
రెంట్ లో కూడా ఇవ్వచ్చు కదా?
రెంట్
ఒక రెవెన్యూ మోడల్.
రెంట్ కుదరదు సార్. ఆ సీజన్ లోనే సీజన్ లో ఆ గొర్రు ఈ పనులన్నీ ఆ 3 నెలల వరకు రెంట్ అనేసరికి చాలా అయింది సార్.
అది అవదు. అర్థమైంది. మీకు మీ వాల్యూమ్స్ లో మస్తాన్ గారు, మీ వాల్యూమ్స్ మంచిగా ఉంది అంటే, మీకు మార్కెట్ లో ప్రెసెన్స్ ఉందంటే, ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఉందంటే, ఫౌండరీ పెట్టాలంటే మీకు ఎంత అవుతుంది అది?
సార్ కొంత మెటీరియల్ మొత్తం
1 crore, అట్లీస్ట్ 1 crore అవుతుందా? బికాస్ పవర్ ఉండాలి, మీకు పవర్ ఉండాలి, పవర్ బ్యాకప్ ఉండాలి, లేకపోతే మీకు పవర్ సడన్ గా పవర్ పోతే మీకు జనరేటర్ ఉండాలి కదా. ఇవన్నీ ఆలోచించేయాలండి మీరు.
జనరేటర్ అవసరం లేదు, కరెంట్ ఉంటుంది కదా. కరెంట్ ఎప్పుడు ఉంటుంది, జనరేటర్ అవసరం లేదు. ఆ మిషన్
నో ప్రాబ్లం. నో ప్రాబ్లం. ఓకే, మీరు ఆ వాల్యూమ్స్ జస్టిఫై చేయాలండి, అంతే. అది నేను క్యాపెక్స్ లో మీరు పే బ్యాక్ చూసుకోవాలి అంతే. మీరు ఒక ఇన్వెస్ట్ చేస్తే ఎన్ని రోజుల్లో, ఎన్ని సంవత్సరాల లోపల మీకు దాన్ని రికవర్ చేస్తారో అది చూస్తే బాగుంటుంది. మీకు 10 సంవత్సరాల పై బ్యాక్ ఉంటే వద్దు అంటాను నేను. ఒక 1 or 2 years, 3 years లోపల మీద ఉంటే మంచిది అంటాను. జస్ట్ గివింగ్ యూ అన్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్. Lakshmi, maybe what you can suggest is let him work out a payback, a simple payback.
Okay, sir.
Volumes though, because he'll be saving on the costs. Some foundry వాళ్ళది margins కొద్దిగా సేవ్ అవుతుంది కదా.
అవును సార్.
అవునా? సో అమ్మేది కాస్ట్ వాల్యూమ్స్ కొద్ది వీట్ కంట్రోల్ లో ఉంటుంది ఫౌండరీ చేస్తే. సో ఈ కెపాసిటీ ఎంత అవుతుంది, క్యాపెక్స్ ఎంత అవుతుంది, దాంతో ఎంత వాల్యూమ్స్ ఉండొచ్చు సర్టన్ గా. సో దాంతో పే బ్యాక్ తెలిసిపోతే, ఇఫ్ ఇట్ ఇస్ లెస్ దెన్ 2 years,
ఓకే సార్,
2 years అంటే he should go for it. But if it's taking 5 years, 6 years అంటే పే బ్యాక్ అంటే కొద్దిగా ఆలోచించాలి అంతే. You can explain that to him, because he's already an established player, no?
sir.
He's already an established player, so you can suggest him accordingly.
Sir.
That is basically a capital decision he has to make. For that he has to do all the capital analysis.
Yeah, sir.
Before he makes investment.
I'll explain him, sir. మస్తాన్ గారు, నేను మళ్ళీ మీకు కాల్ చేసి చెప్తానండి. ఓకేనా?
సరే మేడం.
ఓకేనండి. సో ఇఫ్ ఎనీవన్ ఎల్స్ ఇస్ హ్యావింగ్ ఎనీ క్వశ్చన్స్, యూ కెన్ ప్లీజ్. అదర్వైజ్
Chalo Lakshmi, then okay.
Yeah, sir. So yeah,
all the best andi andarki. All the best to all of you. Okay, right, Amma?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If there are no questions, sir is here. So if there are no questions, I'd like to propose a vote of thanks. So a very good afternoon, everyone. We are delighted to have you all in the national webinar on flexibility for profitability to any agri startup, which is the third and the last webinar we did on the occasion of celebrating 75 years of independent India, that is Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Firstly, we'd like to thank our chief guest for the today's national webinar, Dr. A. Vishnuvardhan Reddy sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor ANGRAU, for the support and the necessary approvals. And we also would like to thank our guest of honor, Dr. L. Prashanti Madam, Director of Research, ANGRAU, for continuously holding up ANGRAU Poshan Incubator in all its ventures and moves. Also, we'd like to thank Chairman for the today national webinar, Dr. P. Rajshekhar sir, Associate Director of Research, RRS Tirupati, for being the driving force in all our endeavors. ANGRAU Poshan Incubator would like to thank our guest speaker, Sri Vijay Shankar sir, for accepting our request to deliver a lecture in the national webinar. Sir, we thank you for the wonderful session and enlightening audience on the importance of profits and how to be profitable. As you have exactly mentioned that this might be too early for the startups who are taking it up, but we are sure that like if not even today, 1 or 2 years down the line, this is certainly would help them and have a huge impact on the audience, sir. As you have mentioned, like the vital factors to mind on the day-to-day entrepreneurial journey, like being flexible with costing, marketing strategies, and expenses, etc. We also would like to thank all the eminent speakers who made this happen to us to organize most productive national webinars, not only in Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, like throughout our journey. We also would like to thank all the scientists and the dignitaries of ANGRAU who participated in this national webinar. Finally, we'd like to thank all the participants for your enthusiastic participation, which indeed encourages us to organize more and more sessions like this. Also, we are overwhelmed with all your feedback over the calls and mentions in the social media. We certainly would like to meet you all in the future virtual sessions we are going to organize. With this, we conclude and call it a day. Stay safe. This is Lakshmi Tulasi, Assistant Business Manager, ANGRAU Poshan Incubator, signing off. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.